work for everybody?
It did not.
It did not work. Because we just dropped the link that you sent us there. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the link that
Yeah, it's a Google.
that we had.
And so
It didn't
didn't
work.
work.
Although you were able to see it at one point. You got some
Oh, yeah, we just can't see it on here.
But it just
Oh, not on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She sent it out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know. If anybody has issues, I can try to pull it for you. Everybody got that?
Oh, okay. I think she just swapped us.
Our last year has started. Yeah, we're going to map that and take on 655. So she's going to come up there.
She
It
said.
actually shows.
Yes, hearing.
I
don't know, I
Looks
don't
great.
know.
It's pretty cool.
Oh.
Business, and I've never seen that. I've seen a wide variety, trying to go through, and they're really quick, it's just.
I got a lot of it in the car, like while I was waiting, so I'm not feeling as yeah. And we're not because of our
It is.
Thursday.
Yeah, generally have that much extra time, I guess.
That night, which we do have hours in that night that I can. It won't be as long as Municipal would have been. Yeah. So I'll get an extra hour and a half there. Okay. I got time.
Well, the answer to our question is no.
Yep. I was thinking I was around anywhere between 5 and 6.
Good. Everything
Sure. Yeah.
smooth along. All right. Not bad, not bad. Are you in Colorado
Okay.
like this time of year too, or you're
No,
still?
typically just one. We've been on a couple
Perfect,
perfect summer because
comfortable.
various kids were moving, so we helped to move.
Depending on who they are.
So, you have kids
I have
outside?
3 to live in both.
You do?
Yeah, one's still in college there, and the other 2 are out, but one owns a business out there, and the other is a chemical engineer and pharmaceutical.
I'll do video,
They all live in
So, do you only have 3 kids, or do you have just 3? They're all okay.
So those girls.
And I was born, I was born in Western Colorado, so it's kind of like being home, closer to home.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you're just here for fun in Indiana?
As long as the humidity's down, it's fine.
This last week wasn't good for you, was it?
You don't need to. I don't need to intro.
There were worse times this summer.
There were worse times. It was a bad summer.
But it was nice.
Wow. And I wasn't sure, I didn't realize, I didn't know we're out there most of the time, but came back here, but
It's, until recently, you know, I didn't have all the time. Maybe that last winter allowed me to spend more time out there.
wasn't a
But
bad thing.
everybody else is always out there. all the time. So,
Yeah, that's good.
It's not cool.
Sounds like protein. Do you have any?
But is that what- my oldest son had Oklahoma business operation, so he does that kind of stuff. Hospital, business and stuff, so the technology stuff.
We'll start with this one.
Who's employed?
Welcome, everyone. I call this meeting to order for September 20th, 2021, public hearing for the 22 budget / capital projects plan for Smith Green Schools. Dr.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of Smith Green Community Schools is to provide a superior educational experience that ensures success for every student through excellence in teaching and learning. A moment of meditation, please. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Royer.
Ready?
Now we're ready.
Okay. Supposed to turn right down a little bit. Good evening, board and community members. I just want to welcome you to the public hearings for Smith Green's 2022 capital project plan, bus replacement plan, and budget. Tonight, I plan to go over the proposed capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan, and the budget in 3 separate meetings or hearings. There will be a time at the end of each hearing for public comment. This is a time for taxpayers to exercise their rights to be heard on each. The board, just as a gentle reminder, is not required to answer questions at this time. It is just a time for public comment, basically. 2 meetings were previously held to discuss the budget and the plans. We held a public work session on August 16th. Lasted, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then on August 30th, we met to briefly just go over the general binder and ask permission to advertise. Okay. At the end of the hearings, if anyone still has questions or would like to a more detailed explanation, feel free to give me a call. We can plan to meet. Community members the same way. We can plan to meet. Dan and a board member could be involved in those meetings if requested. Okay? So let's start with the capital project plan. Board, I don't know if any of you guys brought your binders or not, but if you did, if you would turn to the section in your binder called Form 3, Notice to Taxpayers, and then go back to the 4th page. Okay, so according to Indiana Code 2040-18-6, a capital projects plan, a school corporation's capital projects expenditure plan or amended plan must limit proposed expenditures to those described in Section 7 of this chapter. And then it goes on to give you all of the things that you're allowed to spend capital projects money on or operations fund money on. Okay? The plan must include all proposed expenditures that exceed $10,000 and are for capital assets or projects that are considered capital in nature under Section 7 of this chapter, including technology-related projects. The Department of Local Government Finance shall prescribe the information that is required in the plan. The Department of Local Government Finance shall prescribe the format of the plan. The plan must apply to at least 3 years immediately following the year the plan is adopted, and an estimate for each year to which the plan applies the nature and amount of proposed capital expenditures from the fund. So at this time, I'll just go over what we have detailed out, and we have for budget year 2022, 2023, and 2024. 2022 is actually a lot more detailed. 2023 and 2024, there's still time to add things to that as we get closer to those budget years. But in general, basically, if anything that we want to do with capital projects money in 2022 costs over $10,000 and is not listed on this list, then we would need to have another meeting and amend the plan, basically. Okay. So for 2022, I have an estimate on here of $380,000 for capital projects. That would include the high school, middle school gym floor refinishing and repairs. It would include carpet in classrooms for both the elementary and the junior senior high. It would include restorations to the restrooms in the kindergarten rooms. It would include making door 22, which is back by the cafeteria entrances, an ADA accessible door. It would replace door 23, which is the door, the pickup and delivery, like in the mornings where the kids are picked up and dropped off at the elementary level. It's the recess door as well. That whole door frame is rusting and time to be replaced, so that is on there. It would call for replacement of some classroom doors at the junior senior level. It is calling for a football and track ticket booth. Also that asphalt repair back by the track and football field, the concession area. A safety grant match. So our safety grant pays for the SRO. It's a $100,000 grant. $50,000 of that is coming from the state, but the other $50,000 is we have to match that. So this year we're looking into window film for the windows to help protect. Basically, it would keep, if something tries to puncture the window or tries to, like somebody throws or shoots through the window, it would keep it from shattering. It's supposed to keep them from actually being able to get on through the window completely. So front and back parking lot repairs. We do have some windows and window frames that need to be replaced for the same reason. They're starting to rust. The concrete in front of the junior senior high entrance needs replaced. And the potential, I know we've talked about the rental homes that we have, possibly the destruction of those homes depending on what we decide to do with those. So that is the projects that are capital in nature for 2022. For 2023, again, it's not as detailed yet. It's totaling $190,000. It is also for the high school and the elementary and the gym floor refinishing and repairs. Also includes carpet at both the elementary, junior, senior levels, restroom renovation at the junior, senior level by the high school gym, and safety grant match. Then 2024, we're looking at $115,000. This would be also, again, for gym floor refinishing and repairs, classroom carpet at both ends, and the safety grant match. Okay. And just as a little reminder, this does not include anything that would be covered by bond money. So the only thing we have to advertise are projects that are covered by our operations fund capital projects. So the bond money does not have to be advertised as part of our capital projects plan. Okay. And then the next page shows you a list of capital expenditures. And this one for 2022, I'm showing $117,000 total. I'm looking at classroom furniture for both the elementary and the junior senior high. The junior senior high is looking to buy some more tack boards for their hallways. We're potentially looking at purchasing weight room equipment and a new diesel pump control for the bus garage. That's in 2022. 2023 again is just not as detailed. We're looking at classroom furniture at both ends of the building and the safety grant match, and the same in 2024. I've included safety grant match on both capital expenditures and capital in nature for 2023 and 2024 because we don't know yet if we'll be purchasing equipment or if it'll actually be a project that we're trying to do. So I'm including on both. We're only going to spend it in one area, but at this point I just don't know for sure where that's going to be yet. Okay. So that is your capital projects plan.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
High school gym, aren't those have to be replaced? We're expecting actually need to replace them.
Yeah, we're looking at another 7 to 8 years.
Oh, are we?
At the soonest.
Oh, I was thinking
yeah.
we were closer to
Yeah,
that.
so 2 years
Yeah,
ago, 2 years ago they ground it down, like they took the finish off and they ground it down as far as they could. They did it like, I don't even know what they called
But we
it.
can't do it anymore.
But that's the last grinding we can
So then we
do.
have to install
But
it.
after the last grinding, you can still get 7 years.
You
out
can
of
get,
it, or-
yeah, they said 7 to 10 years we can get out of it.
Oh,
okay.
So,
But for
yeah.
some reason, I was thinking it was much shorter than.
Yeah.
All right.
No, we did not know, a couple years ago, we didn't know for sure if they would be able to do it, but they were able to grind it down one more time.
Okay.
And that bought us another 7 to 10 years. I do, every year, I do, put money in reserves, saving for that, because I know that's coming, so we're trying to save money back for that, so when that does happen, we'll have the money for it at the time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
I will say too, since we did the HVAC in the gym, I know prior to doing that HVAC project, we were replacing boards in that high school gym floor like 20 a year or so. It was just, they were brittle and they were cracking, and when we replaced that HVAC system, apparently the old system had a like an air return under the gym floor, and we're not using that anymore, but they think that might have had something to do with why we had to replace so many boards, and plus, just having the HVAC in that gym now, the humidity level is stable, yeah, and so we have only replaced 3-4 the last couple of years, so it's dropped, and it's expensive to replace the boards, so we've saved quite a bit of money by not having as many replacement boards, so.
What was the total, this is for year in 2022?
Are you looking,
Missed it.
yeah, are you looking at the front, at the capital of nature, or the
Oh,
capital
sorry,
equipment?
yeah, under the
That one?
very first page.
380,000.
Okay.
And again, a lot of that's going to depend on when I actually get our budget numbers back in December, I'll be able to fine tune that. And probably not all of that can happen this next year, but if I don't put it on here, I absolutely can't do it, so. Some of those may get bumped to the following year.
And I've lost track on the kindergarten restroom renovations, is that the final one?
No, we still have second grade, but that we're looking at bond money for,
Okay.
Yes.
yeah.
That's still on track for next summer.
Yes.
We're
It would just be coming from different
Next
money,
summer.
yeah.
on bond, so it's not on this list.
Good.
So the kindergarten restrooms that are on this list, those are the two that are actually in, or the four, I guess, that are in the classrooms.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Right, that's a separate
Yeah.
project, now they're just, they're
That's
old,
fine.
they need some attention.
Mhm.
It's time to make sure they get redone soon.
Well, because we already kind of moved into board comments, so.
Sorry.
Just go ahead, keep going.
No, we didn't think we could get the houses on this one. We can't do them in 2021, but if I put them on this
Oh, okay,
one, we can
this
do it
one
in
is-
2022. Yep,
But we haven't decided that
we haven't decided, no. I'm still waiting on appraisals,
Mm-hmm.
and so, once we get appraisals, then you guys can decide the best option.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, if she doesn't list it, then it definitely won't
Can't
happen
happen.
next year.
Okay.
So
Yes.
she tries to list anything we think we might talk about doing, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I have a question, are the numbers the priorities, or how will this be?
No, it is not priority. No,
Oh,
it is
okay.
not priority. So when I get the budget numbers back in December, we'll meet as an administrative team, the principals, athletic director, Wayne, Dan, myself, we'll all meet and then go over what money we have and what the priorities are to fine tune it. We have a much larger list than this, and these made the priority for 2022, but once we get the budget money, then we'll look into exactly what we need to.
So can we hear that back at some
Mhm.
point?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, we can do
So
that.
we kind of know what order,
What we're doing?
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so we're not planning to meet, probably till the end of January as a team, once I get the budget numbers back and can start to fine tune those numbers. Then we'll meet, and I'm looking at probably end of January for that.
Anything else? Okay, with that, we'll move to the public side, and I have a couple things to remind everyone. Well, I guess, actually, we should probably just go ahead and stand up and do our introduction.
Sure.
And we'll get that done for when the meeting comes. I'll make a couple announcements. For this part, if you have anything for the questions for the capital projects, that's what this is your area for this. Anything else will get moved to the regular meeting. File right after this. So I have a sign-up sheet here for people who wish to talk. Those audience members who signed up and wish to forward any suggestions, ideas, and/or comments, address the board at this time for the capital projects. Comments which involve personnel and students must be discussed in private, and I'm just going to remind everybody it's a 3-minute time, and I'll give you when it's 1 minute left. All right? In the back, yeah, if you guys, if you're together, you can introduce both of
David
them.
Schaefer, my wife Jessica.
And just a quick statement on if you're just here visiting.
Just visiting and learning about what all goes on.
Okay, great.
Casey Taxi, just learning more about what's going on in our community.
Thank you.
Nate Thomas, 5th grade teacher. God bless you for fixing the kindergarten bathrooms.
Amy J. Jagger, 5th grade teacher. Here, Nate.
Janet Haney, I taught here way back. Jeremiah, if you remember now. But anyway, and I had to have a kidney transplant, so I had to give up my job here. But I have wonderful memories and still have a lot of admiration for this community. And I have a new job, which is I work for the state of Indiana. I'm the regional coordinator of these 9 counties. And my job is to reach out to any and everybody that will talk to me about what's going on correct, what's going on amiss in your community that the state and Department of Mental Health should know. So if you hear from me, that's me. It's an invitation. It's not meant to be pressured, but we do want to speak voices for people. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back.
You're very welcome.
Your mask,
Yeah.
that's why you look at him.
I'm Jim Elizondo with Spiegel. I'm on the agenda later.
Okay. So, anyone? For this part? All right. Well, then I will go ahead and close the capital projects meeting. And at what? 7:16 p.m. And we'll move right into the meeting for the bus replacement plan hearing for Smith Green Schools at 7:17.
Okay. No one knows.
Nope, you're up.
All right. So another Indiana code. So Indiana Code 2040-18-9 talks about the school bus replacement plan. Before a school corporation may use money in the operations fund for replacing school buses, a resolution approving the school bus replacement plan or amended plan must be submitted to the Department of Local Government Finance. The Department of Local Government Finance shall prescribe the format of the plan. A plan must apply to at least 5 budget years immediately following the year the plan is adopted and include at least the following: an estimate for each year it applies of the nature and amount of proposed expenditures from the fund. And then it goes on to list a couple other things that don't apply to us. The school bus replacement plan is in your binder again under the tab Form 3 Notice to Taxpayers. It follows the capital projects plans. And basically what it does is it just tells us what we plan to do with our bus replacement portion of capital projects, operations. So in 2022, we are looking to purchase another 14-passenger activity bus. And this one, I didn't bring, we have laid out whether we'll be trading a bus and what bus it is when we're purchasing all these, and I apologize, I did not bring that with me. If I remember right, on this one, we are replacing another activity bus to purchase this one in 2022. We'll do that in the spring of 2022. Then in the fall of 2022, we'll trade a full-size bus in and replace it with another full-size bus. Okay, for a total of $224,000 in 2022 for bus replacement. Then in 2023, we're looking at trading in 2 full-size buses and purchasing 2 full-size buses. And those will be done, one in the spring and one in the fall. Total of $248,000. In 2024, we're looking at replacing another activity bus and a full-size bus, same thing, the activity bus in spring, full-size bus in fall. And in 2025, we're looking at another activity bus and another full-size bus. Again, one in the spring, one in the fall. And then in 2026, 2 full-size buses, but one in the spring and one in the fall, for a total of $252,000. That. And then the following page lists justification for additional bus purchases. Since we are a member of the Northeastern Indiana Special Ed Co-op, we are responsible for, every year when they purchase special ed buses, we are responsible for 1/13 of the cost of those buses. In 2022, their plan is to purchase 2 new buses, so our 1/13 of that total cost will be $21,206. So out of our operations fund, we'll submit that. We'll send that to the co-op for bus purchases. And that really is it for the bus replacement plan.
Questions or comments, Lord?
Are the numbers next to the item?
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you. I noticed that too about halfway down. Yes, I did put those numbers there. I thought I had it. So yes, the numbers that are beside what we're purchasing is the bus that will be replaced.
I've driven 32 multiple times.
Is it time?
Nice.
Is it time?
Yeah.
It was time 3 years ago now. That's what he wanted.
Exactly, yes.
At one point, it seemed like we were getting our buses through a group of people purchasing buses.
Yeah.
And are we still doing that?
We are. So Wayne and April sign on to the state website basically, and what that does is it just satisfies us having to get quotes from 3 different companies for the buses. So they put in the specs what they're looking for, and then it gives us the price. It quotes us a price from all 3 manufacturers, and so.
And does that happen with activity buses too?
It can, and usually we do use that because it does satisfy that code that we have to get 3 quotes or bids, whatever. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, you have anything? All right. Public comments? Okay, then I will adjourn the bus replacement plan hearing at 7:22. Call the meeting to order the debt service education operations director and our rainy day budget here at 7:23.
Climb up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think so. All right. Okay, so since we have met 2 times previous to this meeting, we're going to try to make this as short as possible, yet give the community as much information as we can in that amount of time. Just another reminder, we generally advertise budgets higher than what we plan to be approved for. So just keep that in mind as we're looking through these numbers and these tax rates, that they are advertised at a higher rate than what we expect to receive back. And again, board, in your binder, under the general information tab, I've listed last year's, like the front page is telling you what I'm asking, or what we advertised for this year, what we advertised last year, and then what was approved last year. And then the page right after that goes all the way back to 2013, what we advertised and what was actually approved, just to show you how we always end up with a much lower rate than what we're advertising. Okay. Again, so then if you go back to that page, to that tab, the Form 3, the first page of that section is the notice to taxpayers, and it does list out our tax funds, our rainy day fund, and our education fund. And what we're advertising as our budget. what our maximum amount of money to be raised to meet that budget would be, and then what our current tax levy is, and then the percentage of difference for each one of those funds. It does not list our rate, so I will tell you what it what it's calculating at. Again, I've calculated when I'm running through the calculations for these tax funds, I'm using an assessed value, which is part of the calculation, that is 15% less of what our current AV is. And that's done just to protect us. That's done to, typically, AV will go up, but at the time that we're preparing the budget, we don't know that. So as a general rule, we usually just estimate that AV to be much lower than our current. So as I'm giving you these rates, they are using that calculation of 15% less AV than what we are at currently in 2021, okay? So if we look at the education fund first, we advertised a budget of $8,005,903. That is not a tax fund, so there is no levy to be raised. There is no tax rate associated with the education fund. The salaries and benefits make up 84% of that budget. The remaining 16% is going to pay for educational supplies, professional development for our staff, etc. Okay. Last year we did advertise a budget that was $475,000 less than what we advertised this year. And we were approved to spend everything that we advertised last year. So I don't know if they'll approve us for the full amount, the full $8 million or not, but last year they did approve us for the full amount that we asked for. Okay. Moving on to debt service. We advertised a budget of $1,187,390. Again, we used that lower AV, which brought us calculated up a tax rate of 40.39 cents. And if you look back at last year, we advertised 37.66 cents and was approved at 29.4 cents. And the debt service fund, just a reminder, that's going to pay for any of our outstanding bonds, our common school loans, that kind of stuff. Okay, that's the only budget that we don't inflate because it's paying for payments. We already know what the payments are. Okay. If you go on to the referendum fund, according to our notice to taxpayers, we advertised a budget of $1,256,279. We would need to raise $971,973 in order to meet that budget. Our current levy is $1,012,26. Sorry about that. And the referendum fund, that would bring us, the calculation shows the tax rate at 33.29 cents at that calculation. Again, last year, you can look back at last year and we advertised at 34.17 cents, and then we're approved at 29.46 cents, okay? And then the operations fund, we advertised a budget of $832,108. There is the Department of Local Government Finance. There is a max levy to that, and I explained that to you, I think, during the previous meeting. There is a max levy, and that is well over what the max levy is. So I know that they will cut our operations fund drastically before as they approve it, but. Our current tax levy is $1,765,035, and we're asking for over $2 million. So we'll see that get cut pretty drastically. Again, if you look, you can look at the front and you can see what we advertised last year at 79.33 cents, and we were approved at 51.38 cents. The calculation for the operations fund this year is coming in at 87 cents. So it will not be that high. Okay. Rainy day, I do advertise a budget for rainy day, and that is just simply because if we don't advertise it and we find ourselves in a position that we need to spend it, we'll have to go back through the whole process and get permission from the LGF. So if you advertise it with your budget, it's there if you need it, and if you don't, you just don't spend it. Okay. Again, that does not have any kind of tax rate associated with it. Okay. That was super quick, but I know we've gone over quite a bit of it, especially in the budget workshop earlier. But if anybody can think of any questions since then.
All right, we'll move on into public comment. Nobody? All right, so let's go on. I will close the public hearing for debt service, education, operations, referendum, rainy day budget here at 7:30. Okay, I will call this meeting, a regular board meeting, Monday, September 20th, 2021 at 7:30, Smith Green Schools. And we're going to go ahead and just open it up to the audience. If anybody's got anything, that's this part is where if there's anything on this agenda that you would like to speak on, this is the time. And it's the same rules, so 3 minutes. I'll go over that stuff. All right. Anyone on this part? Okay. Dr. Howe?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Board, first item on your agenda this evening is the consent agenda. It looks longer than it really is. There's just a lot of board minutes from the last, our first true public meeting in a while of a regular meeting since. So we have some minutes from the last few meetings on there. We do have a few professional leave requests, a normal accounts payable. I do want to say a special thank you. We received 2 generous donations. One from the Americans Farmers and Bear Fund on behalf of Pam Johnson of $2,500 to our FFA program. So big thank you to them. And also a generous donation of $150 from the Whitley County Farm Bureau, also to the FFA. So a big thank you to both of those organizations for those generous donations. And then just a few additions to our field trips for this year. And then lastly, also just a few fundraisers also that some groups have submitted for your consideration tonight. And other than that, board, that is everything on the consent agenda.
Okay. Any questions, comments for the consent agenda? All right. I'll just need a motion. And a second.
All motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I can second.
All right. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. No problem.
Okay. Just a couple of quick things on the personnel agenda this evening. Mrs. Megan Armstead is being recommended for employment as a full-time special education paraprofessional in our Russian disability classroom, starting on level 1 in the non-cert schedule. So welcome to her. And then also board, just have another round of extracurricular positions that are being recommended to you this evening. Again, starting to fill out our winter sports, primarily here basketball and a few other positions that are not to go through. And then we have quite a few on the non-athletic area as well, now that those positions have all settled. The principals have made all those recommendations as well. So happy to take any questions. Otherwise, board, I recommend that you approve the personnel agenda.
And I'll just need a
All motion to approve the personnel agenda?
I can second.
second. First and second. All those in favor? Aye. Next one, legislative report.
I don't have any new items to present on the legislative side of things.
Okay. And we'll move on to other business.
Right. Mr. Elizondo is here with us this evening. I don't know if he introduced himself a minute ago. For those who have not met Jim before, Jim works with Stiefel. I always want to say Stifle, but Stiefel. Public finance. He is the one that has worked since I have paid attention to these kinds of things with all of our bonds over the years. Always does a phenomenal job. So asked him to come this evening just to spend a few minutes more to talk, because he will speak much more eloquently than I could about this topic. We have an opportunity with the historically low interest rates right now to consider a refinance of our 2012 bond, which could result in significant savings for the district and for our community. So I wanted to give Jim a few minutes to talk to us about anything.
I don't know what eloquent is, what you're gonna get at.
Okay, knowledgeable, maybe that's the
We'll go there. Or more in tune with this topic.
There you go. That's probably best.
Just like with our home mortgages, and business loans, how you can refinance those as rates come down. That is something that is always available to school bond issues. It has changed over time. When you issued these bonds, there was an option that you could advance refund bonds, which meant you could refinance them at any time prior to their final maturity. With the 2017 Tax Act and our Tax Act took that opportunity away from you as a municipality, in that you could no longer advance refund. So at that point, your only option was you could refund what we call a current refunding, which is once you reach the call date of the bonds. And when we sell your bond issues and all your prior bond issues, typically we sell those bonds with a 9 to 10 year, what we call a call protection, so the buyer of the bonds can't have the bonds called away from them for that period of time. And that's how we lure into the markets to get better rates. That fluctuates depending on the various markets, but it's typically 9 to 10 years. So with the Tax Act, that eliminated your option to refinance those until we get to that call date. That call date for your bonds is coming up January 15th of 2022. They give us a little flexibility. We can do it within 90 days of that. But that is something that I have in here, but as a broad pass, that's why we're here today. Rates, if we go to the first page, and I noticed I stapled them, it kind of flips, the pages flip a little differently. So the first is just kind of a rate history update. And what you'll see in the yellow at the top is when we sold this series of bonds in 2012, this index, and what I'm sharing with you is the AAA Municipal Market Index. That is just an index of reflective, high-rated municipal bonds. Your bonds are A-rated. They'll trade at a level around this, but not as at the same level. This is for AAA. You would trade at a slightly higher rate, but you would follow this same type of curve. So when you sold bonds in June of 12, this index was at 3.18. If you look at the graph, you'll see that on the far right, we are somewhere in the 1.5% range, 1.55 range. So rates have come down over time. If the Tax Act hadn't occurred, you probably might have had an opportunity to refinance sooner. But if you look at the graph, you were in this range. Here's the Tax Act. We didn't really see the drops till after the Tax Act. So it wouldn't have made much difference. We could have been to the market sooner if they hadn't changed that. But what I wanted to show with this graph is we are still in historic lows. The historic all-time low is that last orange bar. Happened in August 7th of 2020. The municipal market hit its lowest rates ever in history. So we're still in an awful attractive time to look at this. So that's really all I wanted to share with that page. Yes,
really
Kathy.
quick question. What is the spike ahead of that about? What is that happening there?
COVID. The little note there, that's when the World Health Organization declared COVID a pandemic on March 11th, 2020, and the markets, in effect, stopped. We had no supply. So nobody was bringing issues out. There was still demand. It drove rates way up. And so in that period, you see, we swung as much as 3% in a period of a few weeks. And we just weren't seeing new issues come in the market. Everybody pulled what they were doing, sat on the sideline and didn't want to participate in. In effect, if we were ready to go for a bond issue for you, and we were looking, we're going to be in the 1.5% range, and all of a sudden this news hits, we would have come in and advised you, unless you absolutely had to have the money, let's just sit and let this kind of work itself out. And you see, over a few month period, we settled back down and quickly got back down to very low rates. But that's exactly what that was.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll see, I've highlighted some of the big swings in the yellow, but the note for that is down there at the bottom of that spike.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
The next page is kind of a summary of the refunding. Basically, you issued $6 million worth of bonds in 2012 that did work at the elementary and high school. Those bonds have a call date of January 15th, of 22, which I mentioned. We can act within 90 days of that. So I'm looking at this as the idea that sometime in late November, or sometime in November, we could sell bonds and lock in interest rates. We're not ready to do that today because we're asking you for your interest in pursuing something like that. But we comfortably could be in the markets in November to lock in savings at that point. Then the summary below kind of shows us what's left of that bond issue. The refunded bonds par amount, that would be our estimate today of how many bonds we would have to issue to pay off the other bonds. And what we do, we issue bonds. There are cost of issuances. So we have an increment of cost of issuance, and the other use of the money is to pay off the bonds. So it's pretty straightforward in that how much does it take to pay off the bonds? We can invest that for, if we go a couple months before it's due, we can invest that for a couple months to save a few dollars, and then there's the cost of issuance involved. The bonds that we're paying off, the refunded bonds we refer to, there's about $3,145,000 outstanding. The average rate on the bonds that you issued was 3.36%. The rate we estimate as of today is roughly 0.99%. So you can see there's the increment of that. And the way we get there, some of it is lower interest rates, but also, if you remember, these were issued as 20-year bonds, and now we're replacing them with 6 or 7-year bonds. So shorter bonds have a little lower interest rate than long bonds. So it's a combination of those two things that drive the savings. We would currently estimate that about $194,000 could be saved over the remaining life. If you do a net present value, we do that so we can compare other repayment structures. But that's about 1.8, or 188,000. And then we always calculate a percentage savings on the refunded bonds, on the outstanding bonds. And that's kind of provides a benchmark. In this case, we're estimating that right about 6%. Typically, we see schools and municipalities get interested in that 3 to 5% range. Anything over that is very attractive. Where could you get a 10% savings, something like that? We have some issues that had a lot of bonds that had at the long maturity. So instead of having bonds that provide a smooth transition, we have some issuers out there that put all their bonds at the far end. And so in effect, they might have had a much higher rate sitting out there. So we're seeing some of those at the 9-10% level. But typically that 3 to 5% range for very little effort on the municipality's part or the school's part to tie up to then reflect that savings. What happens as time passes? We run the risk of rates changing, but we also, as more bonds pay off, we lose more. The amount of money we can save goes down because we can't save it on as big a pool. The percentages still could be the similar, but the actual dollars get tighter and tighter as we move closer to maturity. And then the last 2 pages are something that I would not ask you to worry about today, but to think about. When we refinance a bond issue, we can restructure the new bonds any way that makes sense for the school district. We hope that most of these options, the present value will be very similar, because if we shift savings to the end, to the front, the total dollar savings will vary, but if you do the present value math and bring it back to today's value, they're going to be very similar. But the first option I showed is what that summary was based on. And that, in effect, you held a budget hearing tonight on debt service. We're not proposing you mess with any of those. So you'll see those first 3 payments, the last one for this year, tax year, and then the July 22 and the Jan 23. Those are included in this year's budget that Jody just shared with you. We would propose you have no savings on those, keep those payments where they are, and then take the savings over the remaining 6 years. That's this option, just level savings for the remaining period. The next option, just thinking of how might you look at something differently. You might just take all your savings in the last year. In this case, if you remember when we did the last bond issue, we have a repayment schedule that kind of goes along at a level close to where we are now, and then it had a drop as other debt paid off to provide flexibility for future boards. This option says, well, why don't we take the savings only out to where that drop is? And so it's just another way to look at it. This would give you a little bit more room until that drop. And you see, I take those savings in the last year. Again, the numbers are very similar. They're within a few thousand. But I wanted to share the idea of that's something that if you do decide to move forward, your administration will talk a lot about their longer strategies of what might work for that. At that point, I can answer questions, but what would happen if you have interest, it simply requires the board to take a oral motion to authorize proceeding with the refunding. And that's really all the action you have. There'll be documents and things that will all come through and more communication as we get closer. But can I answer any questions on what brought tonight?
I just got one, Doctor. Just for reference, I know we talked about this, but what was the 2012 bond for? What part of the building?
That one did the junior senior high major HVAC and ceiling work. That was, of course, during the 2 years I wasn't here. I'm trying to remember what that was the biggest piece that we all saw.
Is that in the football light one?
The football lights would have
I
been.
feel like that was after I was back, so that must have been like 15, I think. That was not part of the 12.
Was that part of the cafeteria? The elementary
Yeah,
cafeteria?
cafeteria, yes, that was the elementary cafeteria project was 2012.
Okay.
Good call. So those were the major pieces of that one. But that's when they redid all of the HVAC in the central part of all of junior senior high classrooms. So it was a major overhaul.
Just in case people have.
Yep. No, good question.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, the only thing, board, that you would do tonight, if you're interested in pursuing this, is we just make a motion and a vote, or you can make a motion and a vote in a second, which essentially is giving Mr. Elizondo permission to go ahead and move forward. He would then walk us through the next steps over the next couple of months of anything else that needs to happen. My recommendation, of course, is I think this makes sense to me. I don't know why we would not want to save some money. And it doesn't really change anything other than saving some money, so.
Yeah, it's not changing the term, or the time frame, right? I mean, it's
Yep, so it'll still be paid off and
straightforward. I mean,
yeah, and stay laid out in our debt schedule that we're looking at for projects down the road anyhow, so it'll just help us recoup some of that money, so. Yep.
Anything else? Nothing? All right, so then I just need a motion and a second to authorize the preparation for the assurance of bond refunding.
I'll make that motion.
and I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be back in touch.
Excellent, thank you. Have a good evening.
I ended up with an extra one, but it looked like everybody had one, right?
You can read it twice.
Came on your back for Dr.
That's a bad idea. I'm really not tired.
All right, great, yep. Evaluation.
Okay, board, this next item is just part of Indiana code. Each year we do need to share with you just our summary data for teacher evaluations. A piece of why this is time now is that obviously, as you know, each year the state does give us money for the teacher appreciation grant. So as part of that, we have a responsibility to make sure all of our certified staff are evaluated each year. So, board, you don't need to do anything with this. This is just for your information only, but just like to always share a summary of the evaluation data so that you know the evaluations are being completed. If you add up the numbers, that's obviously a little less than our total teacher population. Anyone who retires, obviously, their evaluation does not go through this process anymore with someone retires. So, but otherwise, everyone else is accounted for in there.
I like the numbers. Great work, everybody.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
How would you say that that compares to previous years?
It's pretty comparable. A couple of years ago, maybe it's been 1 year, I'm trying to think. I feel like it was right before COVID hit, so I guess it's been almost 2 years now. We made some tweaks in response to some changes at the state level as far as what the way the percentages had to work and whatnot. And so it actually kind of rebalanced the percentages similar to what we're going to talk about next for me. And so that did kind of have some different effects. It helped some teachers out a little bit, but also in some ways it helps them have to take another focus on their evaluation too, because they were looking at some different areas now that way that balance. So, but I would say the numbers are pretty well in line with where they've been the last couple of years. Yeah.
All right. Moving to the evaluation.
Okay. So, board, the next item is superintendent evaluation, my evaluation. So, as we talked about before, each year I am evaluated by the 5 of you at the end of the year under the teacher evaluation, the superintendent evaluation rubric, which is put out by the School Board Association jointly with the Superintendent Association. Several years ago, before I was superintendent, the board at that time had made some revisions to that document. And so, as part of the process last year, I know we had some conversation about maybe it was time to just revisit that, see if there were some things that we wanted to adjust with that or do a little bit differently. And so Mrs. Putt and I had a chance to sit down a couple of weeks ago and just kind of talk through some things. She kind of took the lead on that and did put together a Google Doc with just some notes and suggestions based on our conversation. But each year, board, in the fall, the board is required to reapprove what evaluation tool I will be evaluated on at the end of the year, and also the percentages that will tie to that. So percentage-wise, I'm making the recommendation we continue what we've done the last year or so, which is 50-50 rubric and my goals. And then I do want to make sure, board, that if you are comfortable with the suggested changes to the rubric, that board you would approve that to make sure that's an official record that was an approved change. So since we're still at the start of the year, we want to get that done now before we get too far into the school year. And Emily sent this out middle of last week, I believe, so hopefully you had a chance to at least peek at it and see if you had any questions or things made sense. But otherwise, I'm sure she'd be happy to talk you through or answer any questions you might have of what she was thinking or what we talked about.
Thank you for
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we still need just a clean document though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if you guys are happy with those revisions, I'll definitely do a clean one.
Should be clean up.
Yeah, I think the biggest changes was just a little bit of verbiage, and then we brought back one and left two off that they left off last year.
And assuming you approve this, then I'll start noting any ones that have been added back in. Then in my notes, I'll go back and revise mine.
No, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, yep.
Anything else? Good. Let's see. This one would be this motion and second to Dr. Kyle's evaluation with the necessary changes.
Make that motion.
Okay.
I can second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Next is approval for the Public Library Board appointment.
Okay. So, board, we always have one person that we appoint to the Churubusco Public Library Board. That is something that our district has the ability to do each year. And Mrs. Fleetwood has served on that board for quite a few years here, but she is stepping down. And so after gauging some public interest, Carla Horn has volunteered her services to do that, and I think would do a great job in that role. So we're just making the recommendation board that you would appoint Carla Horn to take Mrs. Fleetwood's spot in the library board, and that would expire, it's a 4-year term, so it would expire in August of 2025.
Anything?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Thank you, Shana, for doing that. Those years. Okay, next.
Okay,
Childcare
yep, childcare service. So board, each year at the start of the year, as part of the registration process and getting ready for the year, we do issue the childcare survey. It's something that's required under the Indiana Code. And so we do have a latchkey agreement with Cherubusco Child Care Center, where they do offer, obviously, childcare services for any families who may need that kind of a service. I believe the intent of this law is just to make sure that there's some sort of agreement with a local provider for any family who might need before or after school care. And so this just allows us to assess those numbers. Again, board, you don't have to take action on this. This is more just for your information of the numbers that we see each year on that. And then obviously, again, our agreement is with the Busco Child Care Center. If families are in need of services, that we would help get them connected with that organization to meet
Those
needs.
numbers did seem really low. Is that just because a lot of people don't fill it out?
No, most people, I mean, everyone gets a copy of this.
So most people are taken care of?
But yes, I would say only people who want to participate are going to fill it out and return it, yeah, so, yep.
All right, we'll move on to the approval for the school revised 21-22 reopening.
Okay, so board, nothing changing necessarily, just after our meeting a week or so ago, felt it was important to make sure that the vote that you already took is now reflected in our official document, just for the sake of clarity and so there's no confusion where things are, because we're trying to do our best on the website and making sure all of our documents are the most up-to-date versions at all times so that if anyone's looking, they know where things are. So board, obviously you know about a week and a half ago or so, you did vote to move forward with a temporary mask requirement, just for the time being, and so wanted to reflect that now in the document. So put some language in here just to spell out what we talked about that evening, and then I also put a clarifying statement that as far as school buses go, since that is tied by federal order, just put in there also that once if the federal order decides to revise or rescind that, it will just fall in line with exactly what we're doing in all other areas of campus. So if at that point masks are optional on campus, they will also be the same for buses, just keeping everything aligned that way to make it cleaner. And then one other sentence that we added just for sake of clarity, here on the front page, did add a sentence that talks about the fact that even though this may be obvious, thought it was good to state it, that the board does obviously does have the right in a public meeting to amend any of these policies, whether temporarily or permanently, if there's a need or there's something going on that the board feels, hey, we need to make a change at some point. Just want to be very clear that obviously the board does retain that right, that they can of course amend this document because it is ultimately your document. So, but otherwise, board, that is it. Nothing else changing this evening. I'm not recommending any other changes. Again, just trying to make sure all of our things that are out there for our families to reference are consistent now, so that we have those things very clear.
Questions or comments, board? Looks good to me.
Okay.
So I just need a motion and a second approval to revise 2021-2022 Smith Green Community Schools COVID-19 reopening plan reflecting changes per our board action on September 9, 2021.
I'll make that.
Say that again.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Thank you.
I didn't think you'd be able to read.
Very good.
All right. Neil, please.
You
Even better.
please, you wanted something?
I'm all about sarcasm.
No Neil tonight. I do have one update that I'm slowly working on. It's a special update to a few specific policies that I will get to at some point. But our next big update probably won't be until January, February timeframe. So hopefully I will get that one to you in the next month or two. It's taken me a little while to get through it. So I will let you know.
Okay. We'll move on to the public comments. As board, same rules apply. I do have 2 people that would like to speak.
All right. Like I said, when I introduced myself, I'm Nate Thomas. I work over in the elementary school, and I've either had conversations with you in the past about like student athletes and that sort of thing, or I went to school with you, or I've had children in your classroom, or I know your kids, and professionally, and in some instance. And I guess I just want to say, like, you guys know my heart, and you know why I do this job. And at the end of the day, I do the job that I do because it's about coaching and teaching these young people not just math, but to be the best versions of themselves, whether that's academically, socially, with their peers, emotionally. And I understand and I empathize with you with the difficult decision that you had to make last Thursday or whenever it was. I appreciate your commitment to our children's learning. Because of the temporary mask requirement, I just wanted to let you know, we've gone through a week of learning here this week where I had 2 students out of my 75 quarantined, whereas the weeks before I was at 30, 35. So what that's done for me is that's enabled me to continue forward with my progress and with my teaching, rather than stalling and trying to like do the best we can to basically spinning the tires and waiting for people to come back. But then by the time they come back, we have another wave out. So I just really appreciate the positive impact that that's had, and that has given me as a teacher who wants the best for these kids my most valuable resource, and that's time. They're 10 years old, even adults, we don't get everything right exactly the first time. So I rely on that time with them in the classroom to build relationships so that they're listening to me when I talk to them, or to reintroduce that math concept. So I appreciate your commitment to keeping kids in school, and just, it's not what we wanted. It's pick your poison, right? Like, do you want the masks? Do you want the quarantines? Like, if the state says this is what we got to do to keep kids in school, thank you for making that decision, because I know this is hard. And I appreciate your willingness to make those difficult decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoy your enthusiasm. All right.
Along the same vein, I may not be quite as enthusiastic. Thank you. To give you a little idea, the week before the shutdown, I had 8 students in class, 17 online. Wow. And have we had a day yet where I've had all 25 students? We haven't, but I am a woman of faith. And the sun will probably rise tomorrow, and maybe tomorrow will be the day. But I just want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for what that's doing for kids. I want to thank you for what that's doing for parents. I don't think I've ever emailed as many parents and had called, AJ, what are we going to do? We're going to get through this. And I guess I'd just like to speak as a teacher for a little bit. We do this as a service. I know I'm speaking for Nate here. I mean, this is a service. We love what we do. But there were 12-hour days, and then there was a 14-hour day, and then there was a 16-hour day in the building. And when I got home, my husband said, "You can't do this." And I said, "You're absolutely right." So I know we've spoken a lot about what the mask mandate has done for students and for parents, but as a professional educator, I would like to thank you. I hope everybody knows that AJ is willing to put in the hours, but just thank you for giving us our kids back and letting us do what we do. And education is relational, and it's just such a blessing to have our people back. So thank you. I know it wasn't easy. I know it's still not easy, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right, so I will close that portion of the public comments, and we will move on to board member and administrator comments.
I have enough
We have a little more in you?
I have nothing.
Well, thank you for your work.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yes. I'll just make sure I can be heard on the camera. So first off, I know I said this in my video Friday. I can't thank our kids enough. Obviously, over what, 19 months now, I think we're at with this situation, and things keep changing. A lot of things that are beyond our control here at school, or the board's control, our community's control, and the kids. I mean, the adults I think struggle a lot more than the kids sometimes, and the kids have just been troopers. They roll with it. They came in last week on the first day of the master requirement, ready to go, and they did an outstanding job, and I can't thank them enough because that's why we do this job, is to love on those kids and give them the best we can. So, but right along with that, obviously, big thank you to their parents for helping us get through this. It sure feels like forever, but we all know this will not be forever. This will end. Even the master requirement, I mean, that's why we tied it to the calorimetrics like we did, so that there will be a natural time when it rolls off. So just want to thank everyone for their patience and support and flexibility, because we're all just trying to look out for each other and do the best we can this year with the options we've been given. On a different note, we just want to share, I know I shared this via email a few days ago, but just want to let you know we are now officially in negotiation season with our Teachers Association, and so that started officially on September 15th. Our student count day was on Friday, and so we are still cleaning up those numbers and getting that around, but I'll send you some updates very soon on that. We are going to meet again on Thursday of this week. Thank you to Ms. Sellett for participating on behalf of the board with that, so we're going to work through that. And our ultimate goal is to have everything wrapped up and ready to bring to you for approval at the October board meeting. We've been able to make that the last 3 or 4 years. We've always been able to get that done. Just as a quick reminder, I think I've shared this board, there are some steps when we get close that we have to complete. There'll be one additional board meeting we have to do at least 72 hours in advance of that board meeting. Our hope is to be done well in advance so we can schedule that on a day that just works that week prior. But again, as we get close, I'll reach out and see when we can get together. It's a pretty quick meeting. It's just to share publicly what is being proposed, and then you can approve at the October meeting. On top of that, I want to share that Ms. Royer and I are also working, we'll be working at the same time to update our non-certified pay scales as well. Our hope truly is to come to the October meeting and bring to you recommendations not only for the teacher's contract, but also the rest of our staff as well. Because as we all know, we have staff here that work hard every job. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to move forward for everyone. So we'll have some more information again in a few weeks for you on that, but all those things are coming. And then once we get through all of our staff-related things, hopefully in October, we will need to get very serious very quickly about those bond projects that we've talked about. Obviously, we've been talking for a while. Once we get through this, we need to get serious to make sure we can get some things on the calendar for next summer, whether that's some of the athletic areas that are in need of updates for safety reasons and whatnot, some of the classroom areas, the restroom project and whatnot. We just want to make sure those can actually get next summer. So again, more to come, but just that's kind of our next few months on the horizon. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Only thing I've got, just so people ask or want to know, but NDOT will be doing another project. So I don't think it's going to affect our transportation, but they're modernizing the street lights, or the traffic lights. So I think they can keep the old ones up from what I've seen, but this was, what, a year ago since the last time we had a meeting. But they should be here anytime, and they keep telling me that. I thought it was 2 weeks. But it was supposed to have turn lights, like modern, so you'll be able to turn yellow in traffic, stuff like that. So if it stays the same and the money's there, that's what it is.
And when will 205 be done?
Mid-October. But, you know. Okay, that's all the bad news I got.
A few of our bus drivers have definitely been making friends this week, trying to navigate 205 right now. So they're figuring it out, but it's a challenge each day.
It's been challenging.
Yes.
As a uninformed board member, I would love to further understand your comment with regards to 12, 14, and 16-hour days.
Sure,
That doesn't have to be right now,
sure,
but I'd like to understand.
for sure.
So
Happy to chat with
at
you.
some point in time.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate that.
That's all I have.
I think I have placed you, Mrs. Haney. Did you student teach with Dwight Kraft?
I did, and then when he left, retired, I got his job.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
She was my teacher, Kathy.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
my teacher.
Oh, boy, here we go. Now the story's mine.
Good thing I'm just 20. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here at our district. I remember you now. You brought a lot of enthusiasm. Dwight was kind of a down-to-earth, drier person, and you brought a lot of energy to the room.
Well, he gave me free rein. He said, go for it. You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
So we did everything.
Yeah, we did. That's fun. But I would like to say mental health-wise, there are a lot of great things happening, I think, at this district. And it was a hard session to, what I'm going to say, have people come forward and talk about from their hearts what's happening with their children and what they wanted to see happen with masks going forward or not masks going forward. And people applauded for people, no matter what they said. There was applause every time because they just knew people were speaking from the heart. And unlike some districts, I think, who maybe had a lot of angst and so forth, we didn't have that. And I think Dr. Heil has helped set the tone and has worked with people, even people who were not against, or were against, I'm sorry, what the decision came down to just help them, understand how to advocate at the state level and things like that, so that the kids get the best they can. I mean, we are really into this. Did you say 19 months a minute ago, Dr. Heil?
I think so.
That's a long time. So I just wanted to say, I think you asked about mental health.
Well, I did.
And I just want to say I appreciate that.
The word is
The
out
state
about you.
wants
The word
to
is out
know.
about you guys. I mean, the fact that you didn't have an awful lot of negative going through the mask, that doesn't surprise me a bit, because that's the way this community is always, kind of rolled. But I heard some really good news about you guys, and I do from time to time. But I wanted to come and find out more if I could. I heard from your neighbors over at Waco and Columbia City that this school district is leading the pack with people in this community who jumped in and went through some training about mental health issues and what could be done in schools in the classroom. And they threw some numbers around, and when they said 130 people had taken part, I just about fell out of my chair. And that's the kind of thing that I want to make sure the Department of Mental Health also knows, that a lot of people are moving this prevention and this issue forward and doing the right thing. So my contact person that talked about it with his Jake, the K-9 officer at his feet, was, let's see now, Clark. Yeah, Tim Clark. He had all praises for your school preparation. So since you brought it up, I just wanted to give you another pat on the back. But I intend to pursue that, and I hope other schools will take your lead.
All right. Anything else then? Have anything for closing items? Nope. That's it. All right. So I will close this regular meeting of September 20th, 2021 at 8:12. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. Oh, nothing.
I know what that means. I don't want